Hello, welcome and welcome back. This is Jacob and today we are gonna be continuing the narration and character voicing for the main story of Arknights, episode 11, aka chapter 11, Return to Mist. Alright, what can I say? If the last episode is the calm before the storm, then today's episode is the beginning of the storm, I guess. Oh boy, will we be going over some stuff today. But before all of that, once again, thank you very much for the likes on the previous part, and for as a extra little bonus in today's episode, rather, I did not yet pick up the rewards that you acquire on stage 1115, aka the stage where you get dug up from, essentially. So we're gonna be doing that during today's episode once we finish off 1115, and I'm gonna be also for the first time reading through whatever we are getting there, or rather whoever's entry we are getting there, so that's gonna be interesting and fun. But yeah, that's gonna be for later. First off, we're gonna do the usual recap here, so for everybody who wants to skip the recap, timestamp as always in the pinned comment in the comment section below. But let us begin with that, shall we? So, on the previous part, we pretty much began with the very same flaming inferno where we left off previously, and that is the Cumberland Manor burning to the ground, essentially, by the flames caused by the Sanguinarch of vampires, or rather by his orders. While everything is burning to ash and the life of Ellerdale's long life companion and maid, pretty much last family member she has, Ellie, she perishes in the flames. She is stunned and doesn't know and doesn't react. Well, to be fair, whoever was with her at the moment, and I'm just gonna guess it's Siege, who is right next to her there, if not for her pulling her away, she would have probably just either sat there in the flames or rushed in. Who knows what would have happened, but Ellerdale is still alive and saved by whoever was with her at that point. But in the meanwhile, the Sanguinarch of vampires is just happy-go-luckily killing every single noble that is in front of him. That was there, and pretty much using his blood to do all kinds of shenanigans. He's just a quirky one, isn't he? But in the meantime, in the factory helmed by Feist's grandmother Catherine, Feist and the doctor are pretty much reading through the entry journal that they found in the hidden compartment of her desk. Meanwhile, as Catherine is pretty much being escorted to a place where she and a bunch of other older helmsmen of the factories are gonna be executed, pretty much to both intimidate other workers, but also to keep whatever secrets they might have discovered a continuous secret. But Catherine does form something of a connection with one of the mercenaries, the young Sarkar's girl by the name of Paprika, who does at the end hesitate when she was given the orders to, well, just straight up murder Catherine. But at the last minute, the combined force of the doctor, Feist, who rallied the workers of the factory, or rather a portion of them, and Ascalon arrive and pretty much save the day at that point. Even though it was a bit too late for a bunch of other factory helmsmen already, but they do save whoever was left, including Catherine. After that, we got greeted with, or rather we were privy to a very, very interesting dinner. Shining, who got an invitation to meet with the other heads of the Confessari, arrives and is seated down to have dinner with the person who keeps calling her sister, and another Sarkas woman by the name of Salus. Salus, who is overjoyed actually to see Shining return, and is happily just talking away and exchanging current developments with her research as prompted by the head of the Confessari at the table, and brings up two majorly important things there. One being that whatever she's researching has to do with memories, and plucking them, keeping them, transplanting them potentially. So that kind of shines a light already how Theresa is probably back from the dead, but not the actual Theresa that we know. More so of a halfway empty shell than the actual Theresa probably, but who knows, we'll see how that one goes. But also she brings up a thing of another person that we do actually know from our side of Rhode Island, and that is Liz, or Nightingale. She does prompt that Shining was apparently the responsible one about the either overseeing or actually directly doing the experiments on Nightingale. She brings up Nightingale's oropathy, which doesn't sit very well with with Shining, pardon, and Shining stands up, wants to just leave the two behind. But at the final moment of its exchanging words with the Confessari leader, she does bring up one crucial thing. He might be calling her sister for whatever reason, might be a in-house Confessari thing from his perspective, but she addresses him with father, which is very interesting to me, honestly. But yeah, in the meantime, the other parties all reconvene, being the Self-Salvation Corps and the Rhode Island Party all flock back together, and they form the plan for the next day, which will be a united offensive against a defense tower of Defense Force Command Tower, pardon, to obtain some information out of it. Closure will pretty much be key in this operation to acquire information out of the system of the tower, to hack it, basically. And the next day, we actually see the operation commence. And even though it is commencing and part of the forces are more or less running a distraction, or more or less the entire operation is a distraction just to acquire info, on the rooftop of the defense tower we do see a clash between Ascalon and Manfred, but we do then proceed to keep on seeing what is happening currently under the streets of Londinium, deep in the belly. Essentially, the siege team together with Ellerdale and the White Mercenaries helmed by Toller are all heading underground into the Mausoleum of Kings to acquire the Realm Blade. And that is where we left off. That is where we left off the last episode. Alright then, shall we head in? So first off, obviously, like I said, when we finish 1115, pardon, today we'll head back into the book, read the entry, but we will also acquire Dagda, cause I did not do that yet. So that will be a nice little extra treat for today's episode. In the meantime, stage 1113 is not a battle stage. Therefore, or rather, sorry, it's just a battle stage. It is not a story stage. So let's just begin reading and head over to 1114. So, near to stop. The way back is cut off. We can only press onward. 1114. A face-to-face meeting. Oh god, I'm gonna stumble over that word, aren't I, again? But that ideal is antithetical to the now, making it all the more lamentably dire. Whatever that word is, it's way too fancy for me. Anyway. Time to start with a little flashback of sorts. 4 years ago. Time goes by fast for your race and your country, compared to the Sarkas. Not long after the Titan that was Gaul collapsed, Victoria and Lithuania feasted on its remnants as quickly and ferociously as they could. It has only been a few dozen years, and the Gallic era has long since come and gone. You never witness Corsica the First's battleships and cannons. You have never known Lingones's prosperity and pride. The lands of your father's generation have been integrated into the territories of Victoria's most provincial nobles. The uniform you wear is that of a high-ranking Victorian officer. The medals you wear are all Victorian. You speak the most standard Victorian as the Londinian nobility do, without even the slightest hint of Gaulish accent. When you walk before me and claim you want to negotiate with the Sarkas, what gives you the right to call yourself Gaulish? Your Highness, Gaul has not a single city left. The man who stands before you is not a Gaulish man, but a Gaulish survivor. Some of us live in Victoria, some in Columbia, and some in Lithuania. We did not choose this exile. We've long been without a place to call home. You wish to rebuild Gaul. Yes, just as you and the other Sarkas wish to rebuild Kazdel. 2 centuries ago, the Gaulish Empire's artillery battalion also surrounded the walls of Kazdel. And now you will speak of yourself in the same breath as the Sarkas? Victoria was in that war against Kazdel too. And from what I heard, the reason you and the military commission were able to enter Londinium was precisely because of an invitation from Duke Cavendish. Then I'm certain you've heard what has become of him. 10 days ago, Duke Stafford stirred up an uprising in Londinium, and Duke Cavendish stepped forward to put a stop to his scheme. The Londinium Defense Forces joined the battle as well. Too bad. Neither Duke Stafford nor Duke Cavendish survived the other's cannon fire. I'm sure you know this better than me. The other dukes are all paying keen attention to Londinium's situation right now. No matter what you are planning to do with the city, you will need a new helping hand. This is how you will work with the Sarkas. Correct. As you can see, the Gaulish Remnant will fully support all of the Kazdel Military Commission's activities in Londinium. In exchange, we only ask that you return a few Gaulish cities to Gaulish rule in Victoria's forthcoming chaos. One good is my promise. A nation's destruction has nothing to do with the number of cities it has. I understand that, Your Highness. But, we can't afford to wait for a more opportune time than this. I know a youth vanguard. He once served directly under the Gaulish Emperor's guards. When I met him, he was already 60-something. However, the guards had long disappeared during the Battle of the Four Emperors. He never got the chance to become a vanguard. The word right there, the view, essentially in French, if I'm correct here from what I've looked up, means just old vanguard. He told me about the spirited emperor, their indomitable fleet, and the troops' idle conversations during mobilization. Over the decades, he has always insisted on telling his stories in Gaulish. Now he lies in a small sanatorium in the Shepborough of Londinium. I paid him a visit not too long ago, and he has already forgotten how to speak. Even so, whenever he sees Gaulish imperial-style architecture on the telly, his muddy eyes regain their former vigor without fail, and he lifts his spasming hands to clap. He will be gone in no more than 5 years. The last generation of Gaulish men who have truly seen Gaul with their own eyes is dying. Your Majesty, you are right. Compared to the Sarkas, our lives are insignificant. Our memories cannot be passed on through our blood. When the final witnesses pass away, our memories of Gaul will disperse with the wind like the Empire. When that moment comes, Gaul will truly be lost. All we can do is to grasp at the ashes as best as we can. Back to the present. Ballista, fire! Hold the ceiling layer, do not let them any closer.
These defense forces men, a tad bit stubborn, aren't they? Because their leader is still up there. These soldiers really respect their commander.
Commander, the Sarkas are here. The Rhode Island operators are engaged in battle with them.
Back them up. We need to draw the enemy's attention on this facade of a battlefield to the best of our ability, to buy the doctor time.
My guess is the mercenaries at Highbury died by your hands. War is imminent. Both you and I know it in our hearts. Ascalon, you were born and raised in Kazdal. The general plucked you from a corpse pile. The regent taught you to use a weapon to defend yourself and your homeland. But now, at this moment, when all Sarkas must stand together, what are you and those Sarkas at Rhode Island doing? Are you going to give our information to the Victorians? To a group of outbloods that once trampled upon Kazdal? You betrayed the promise you once made. You betrayed Kazdal.
Kazdal is several thousand kilometers from here.
During the Civil War, you chose to become Babel's assassin. I couldn't stop you, nor did I have reason to. After all, you were serving Her Majesty Theresa, the sole king of Sarkas. But what do you serve now? A phantom of the past? The Civil War ended long ago, and now even Her Majesty Theresa has returned to our side.
4 years ago, you were the ones who killed her. And now you sully her death so dishonorably. Who's the real traitor?
Ascalon's attack cut through his arts. The two of them have been different since they were small. He learned much from the general: swordsmanship, military theory, and how to play political games. Yet Ascalon remains as pure as the weapon in her hand. On the battlefield, she cannot be swayed by any words. Her eyes always focus on her highest priority target. Letu.
This blood.
A thick, viscous, blood-red color rapidly seeps out of the ground. It turns into a barrier harder than a wall, dividing Letu and Ascalon.
Doctor, the drones have detected another squad of Sarkas fighters closing in on our position. No, not just Sarkas fighters. That's surging red.
Here comes the vampire. Have the core and our operators keep their distance. Let Ami and Logos know.
Okay, Doctor. It's pretty much going exactly the way you said it would. He's heading straight for the top of the command tower. The vampire's twisted stubbornness is really giving away his movements. I won't be affected by that, will I?
How are we doing with the drones? We gotta pick up the pace.
Good news! This command tower is very close to the city walls. I've already located the best route to the control area. The modern communication methods that the defense forces are using are much easier to take advantage of than all of that witchcraft the Sarkas use. I went and disguised my drone's identification codes. None of our long-distance signals will be jammed, guaranteed. Though, drones are very fragile. If they get attacked, that's gonna be all our hard work down the drain. I just hope that Amia can stall these guys who really know how to put up a good fight up there. You're weak and foolish, Liberi. You know Sarkas can easily end your life, and you choose not to run?
I am the commander. This is my tower. My men, they're all still here.
Perhaps I should consider cleaning them up first then. These arts, this scent. Ah, I see the foolish pretender is here. This is our first proper meeting, King of Sarkas. I've met you plenty of times before, Vampire. Countless Self-Salvation Corps fighters sacrificed themselves because of you. I remember all their names, and their lives won't carry any less weight than they deserve just because you look down on them. So, what do you intend to do, King? Will you use that pitch-black axe of yours to end me? Caster team, sniper team, join me and tear down his blood defense. No time to lose. Seize the target.
All at once, black lines and bolts dart into the thick blood-colored layer. Nothing has changed.
You disappoint me. Kautos, you assumed the stance of a warrior, yet you deny the necessity of killing in politics. You are even weaker than Theresa. Theresa was a ridiculous one. She tried to have the Sarkas bow down to our invaders, namely Victoria. And the most foolish of her action was undoubtedly her decision to make you her successor. Focus fire! What a pointless struggle.
Disperse. Right before the tide of blood reaches Amia, it suddenly sliced apart in one clean cut.
I see. In addition to the assassin who was your vanguard, you brought another servant with you.
I am Amia's employee, not her servant.
Banshee. Are you perhaps afraid? You think by hiding in that shell called Rhode Island, you can refute your relationship with this counterfeit and escape Kazdal's judgment on its traitors?
Your words are always riddled with falsehoods, Vampire.
Although only for the time being, I took off my Rhode Island Elite Operator uniform the moment we decided to come to Londinium. I am the Lord of the Banshees. Wheresoever I speak, there lies the Elegaic Court.
The young Banshee raises his hand. On his dark-colored robe, his incantations quiver softly, like the first drop of dew dripping down under morning sun.
It is not the crown that I follow. It is precisely Her Majesty Theresa's ideals that have driven me this far. You took her life and desecrated it, but you can't extinguish the flames that she lit before our eyes. How can someone who has seen daybreak return to an eternal night?
And that obviously proceeds into our battle stage. Now, no big enemies here, but we do have, rare boss enemies, but we do have one new entry. And it is the Sarkas Wither Devourer. All I can say to these guys personally is, screw these shits. Anyway, part of the Nachtserer army devours any obstacle in its way, including the living. Anything and everything is food to it. And just as that literally describes there, yes, The moment they hit a blocker, no matter how many they can block, they just go num num num, and your blocker is gone until you kill it. Anyway, we will continue now with the after part. Meanwhile,
so this is...
The giant door lies solemnly in the underground area. There is not a sound to be heard aside from the breathing of those who have made their way here. Of course, death is silent. Not even the most glorious rain can change the fact.
The Mausoleum of Kings, just as its name suggests, this is the resting place of all Victoria's kings. Do you hear something? Nothing besides our breathing.
There is no mistaking that there is some kind of sound echoing throughout this place. Is it the murmur she hears, having woken up from her dream, or is it the groan she owes to her fatigue? They are staring at her. Victoria is staring at her. The moment she comes to realize this, a sense of agitation immediately follows. What do they expect? What kind of future are they envisioning for her? She grew tired of these days on the run long ago. And it has been a very long time since she last heeded the call of that golden creature. Golden Mane.
Come, we need to finish this mission as fast as we can. Rhode Island and the Corps will need our help.
Stop. What's this on the ground?
It's too dark here. I thought this was some of the upper crust posh decor. This is blood.
Signs of a fight here. An utterly tragic battle. No, this place is a mire soaked in death. A meandering trail of blood can be found having slithering down the pathway and past the gap beneath the door. Or perhaps it crept its way out the large door. The trail of blood has long since dried, leaving the shattered bricks on the ground covered in its twisted dark crimson stains. Likewise, there are tattered bolt heads, sword fragments, and craters left behind by Art's explosions, all submerged under the bed of dried blood. There are also marks more massive in scale, such as the numerous scars on the door, each one by itself more than enough to tear the silence of this place asunder. Although there are no bodies to be seen, everyone who seen war before can easily work out what transpired here. Two groups, both prepared to fight to the death, battled each other. Evidently, they got their wish. Judging from the color of the blood, this must be at least several years old.
Several years? You don't mean... The Sarkas. Sarkas died here. I recognize their weapons. They're the same ones the Sarkas warriors who attacked the Knights of the Tower used all those years ago.
They're different from what the Sarkas outside are using.
Completely different. The blades that the Sarkas use now are all made in the munitions factories in Highbury, and they're very similar to the standard weapons used by the Victorian army. They're not as crude, and nowhere near as barbaric. I still remember the sounds of their rusted blades cutting through my fellow knights. They were heavy, and they'd shatter bone before crushing armor. Doctor, are you alright? I'm fine. If the sight of these battle scars was enough to stop me in my tracks, I probably wouldn't have been able to manage a single peaceful night since my escape from Londinium. Vina, the situation's not quite what we expected.
The sound hurts her head. They are urging her. They are speaking.
The size of kings is still inside. Keep calm and carry on. Who fought the Sarkas?
There's no way to tell.
The other side left no traces?
If they did, it's like I haven't seen them before.
Mr. Totter, how long has it been since you became a mercenary?
It'll be my 14th anniversary next month.
You must have seen weapons from most countries out there.
Certainly, but not every country out there. I'm just your garden variety merc. I haven't seen the weapons of any particularly elite forces. If I had, I wouldn't be alive right now.
Morgan, Indra, head back outside the path and stay alert. Secure our evac route, just like before, right? I hope I don't miss out on anything good. Siege, we can't act rashly now. Do you hear the battle above us, Doctor? No. I do. This trembling. I can imagine it. I can't go back empty-handed. If the sword will stop all of this, or even just ease all the sacrifice and slaughter, then I shall do it. I do not see this as a responsibility. It's just a tiny act on my part. It's nothing different from knocking out the front teeth of those thugs who come looking for trouble. Vina. Ellerdale, you said it yourself. Having taken this step, we can't turn back now.
This is a tune, alright? And I had a very big giggle when that started, like, what the hell am I... what? Such a tone shift all of a sudden. Anyway.
You look pretty cheesed. This is my chance to fight right beneath the palace. I just hope they don't actually run into anything that calls for a fight. You should have known what a big sacrifice I'm making for you. If someone whacks you in one go, you've got to have a friend to yell for the others, right? My silly Hannah. Do you remember how Vina looked when we first met her?
How could I forget? It was real cocky.
She was tiny, but she was full of herself. She hardly talked. You couldn't even tell what she was when she was angry, but when she fought... Who do you reckon taught her how to fight? She said it was her teacher. And I thought she had some Raoul from Norport for a teacher. Then we found out about who she was, and it all made sense. Probably a knight with muscle for brains. Seriously though, aren't princes and princesses all meant to wear frilly clothes and have trouble running? What kind of teacher would have her fight like she's facing a wild beast? When she first told us who she was, I thought she was having a laugh. I mean, I wouldn't kid about something where life and death is concerned. I thought it was a new gang looking for trouble in Glasgow. But it turns out it was an operation to assassinate the heir of the throne? Huh. They were pretty tough, though. I thought it'd be a lot more fun to follow a crown princess on an adventure than living the thug life. Besides, this princess has got a special place in my heart. Before I knew it, we were following Nina out of Londinium, wandering the world with her, and making it back here. Now, if the heroes in the legends had a choice, they'd rather lie down on the sofa and gulp down a cold beer. Wouldn't you agree? Having second thoughts? Of course not. We've come this far already. I started on my I started on my memoirs already, and I'm going to make it huge with the book. It's called The Legendary Vina and Her Legendary Mates. All I need now is a publisher. If you're sorry vocabulary, forget it. Vina said it was cool. This reminds me of the pub that we smashed the sign off. That was the first battle we won with Vina leading us. That night, we drank all the booze in their cellar. In the end, Baird carried us back to the lorry one by one, and drove us home before the police got there.
Are you bloody daft?
I was the one who carried you on my back. Baird was so off her trolley, she tried to steer the loo, and you wanted her to drive. All I'm thinking is, no matter where we are, we can still come together and make a name for ourselves, right? Even if it's just taking over a pub from the other gangs. Say, Hannah, we've been back for days already. Why hasn't Vina so much as suggested paying Glasgow a visit? The key. Before we left, the doctor gave me this key. The doctor told me that Dr. Kaltsit negotiated for this. Only this can open the door that leads to the Mausoleum of Kings. I know this key once belonged to a Draco. Allerdale, do you know where the other key is?
The other key. The key that belonged to the Aslan royal family. It too can open this door, and it should have been passed to her by her father, but she has never seen the key herself.
Why ask me that all of a sudden? I just remembered another legend about the size of kings.
With the sword in his hand, the Aslan Padishah tried to conquer the last swath of foreign land. The Draco King's fire arts flew straight toward him, his armor burned away in the flames, disappearing in purplish drops. However, his sword was far harder than his armor. The moment it pierced the Draco King's body, only half of the Aslan Padishah's sword remained. And so the Draco King lived, and the Aslan Padishah lost his right hand. After the Draco and the Aslan signed their treaty, the sword was reforged, and it has since become the symbol of Victoria's centuries-long glory.
My ancestors once nearly killed the Draco King, and now I hold the key of the Red Dragon's descendant to open the door to the Mausoleum of Kings.
Yeah, put that into perspective.
Here, it doesn't matter whether one is Draco or Aslan. One is only Victoria.
The door opens. It is much easier than she imagined. It's so simple, as though everything was already in place, awaiting only this tiny push from her. The Mausoleum of Kings. A millennium of Victorian history surges toward her, the Aslan who left, only to return. Alright. And we continue on to stage 1115, titled The Earth Shakes. Yet hate cannot be dispelled. This stage only contains a before story, so let's begin. These filthy rebels, they've been at this since Sudan. Bring out that massive metal thing of yours. You mean the self-propelled cannon? Sarkas, there's still lots of our men up ahead. Send them a signal. Ever heard of danger close? You know how wide its attack range is. They won't get away in time. That's their problem. Our warriors know how to survive on the battlefield.
Over there, a movable mechanical originium cannon. What the hell is this? That's no normal artillery shell. Did castle have some kind of advanced research institute I never heard of? And in such a short time too. How did Manfred manage this?
Have you found the control area with your drones yet? Focus.
Control area, crap. Doctor, these artillery shells got arts that jam my drones. Like I said, Londinium systems are easily to crack, but Sarka's witchcraft is tough.
Doctor, we'll take it from here.
Oh, Feist!
Everything's set the way you wanted it. The engineering team will make sure your drones will fly free.
I've got an idea.
Disclosure, these originium cannons were assembled in our factory.
So, you aren't planning on taking them apart right here and now, are you?
If we were vampires, we definitely could have given it a shot. Too bad, most of us are just normal craftsmen. But we know what we've made with our own hands. We know how to target their weak points to create an opening for our friends who can actually put up a fight. After all, this is how us engineers can put ourselves to the use on the battlefield. Isn't that right?
The zipline. You're gonna climb onto that?
Your drones will function as normal if you get the cannon under control, right?
In theory. That's too risky though.
We're working together here. I need you and the doctor to help us lock onto the safest landing point. As the cannons echo in the air, Feist focuses on the battlefield before him. He sees not the fierce Sarkas, but the machinery by the conveyor belts he's the most familiar with. The thunderous sound of the enormous machine's movements is no different from the rhythms he knows so well. He will take back the city that belongs to them, his own way.
Phew. I've always wanted to see a battle from up above. Isn't this the perfect chance?
The giant machine ambles down the street. Compared to its colossal form, the men on the battlefield, be they Victorian or Sarkas, are almost insignificant. Its footsteps cannot be halted, its gaze can easily melt the blocks. It is practically the ruler of the steel jungle. Yet, it suddenly lets out a wail. From a blind spot in its vision, a dozen grappling hooks latch onto the weakest point of its neck. Immediately thereafter, several dozen figures climb onto its back via the zipline.
Doctor, we've got it under control.
Snipers, eliminate nearby hostiles. Oh, it broke again. Are you shitting me? Understood.
Casters, strike. On it.
Look at you, Banshee. You won't allow even a single drop of blood near you. Every drop you control contains your witchcraft. Oh, the curse of the Banshee. Since when have the Banshees been so boring and uninteresting as you? I still remember how they flew through the dark night, blowing their bone whistles. They mourned those lost on the wastelands with their sharp, sorrowful cries. At the same time, they mercilessly dug their pitch-black fingers into the skulls of those pitiful souls. Banshee. That is what a Banshee is supposed to be. They have always been the hunters that the vampires admired the most. On the battlefield, we fought alongside one another with fear as a weapon, taking the lives of our feeble enemies. But the Banshees of today have lost their way. Your kind has locked your true selves behind that attire, not unlike what the Lethanian casters wear, decrepit and pretentious. I'm afraid you are the one who's lost your way, vampire. Time does more than relentlessly erode the lands. It shapes life as well. Why not take a look at yourself? Your form has long since changed. You are no longer as you were.
What a significance is the form my flesh takes? Your flesh, like my robe, is the true form in which we walk this world. The roots of royal court may have rotted away long ago, but royal court as it stands today, with its canopy raised up high, remains unwilling to fall to the ground. How pathetic. That which is dead continues to draw nutrients from the barren soil, denying itself the chance to receive new life. So this is your true goal?
The smile disappears from the vampire's face. Next to him, the boiling blood settles into stasis for a brief moment. A faint tremor can be felt beneath the ground, before the floor above it starts to shake as well. Blood marches forward.
Operators, hold!
The battlefield below us. He suddenly realizes he has stayed here for too long. Leto is far from the only weak point in the command tower. While both he and the vampire had their attention drawn to the King of Sarkas and their old acquaintances, Rhode Island and the Self-Salvation Corps have very likely been drawing ever closer to the information they need. This was Rhode Island's plan all along. They stood no chance of quickly defeating him and the vampire. They simply wanted to buy themselves time. I must...
You're too late.
Yes, he is. He can sacrifice an arm to escape from Ascalon. But the thing that's truly stopping him is the sea of blood before his eyes. The Sanguinarch has already been angered. They are all trapped on this battlefield.
Banshee. You dare to plot the destruction of the royal court, the very manifestation of Sarka's heritage.
An earth-shattering surge of blood envelops the entire command tower. The Rhode Island operators and the defense force soldiers are all moments away from being submerged. That is, until a shapeless force divides the Red Sea of blood.
I do this not for destruction, but for my salvation. Don't let your long memories bind you. Release yourself from your pride, from the olden days, old Sarka's king. The Sarkas have changed. The Sarkas must change.
Under his bone pen, golden incantations write themselves loop by loop. Heeding its master's rage, the pool of blood rises from the floor, the walls, and his head and charges toward the unapproachable young Banshee, as well as those he is shielding. All because the Lord of Curses has already set the rules upon his high tower in a foreign land.
Doctor, the control tower.
The situation is intense. I believe in Amia, Logos, and Ascalon.
Yeah, looks like they managed to stall that scary guy. Doctor, the drones have reached the control area. Gonna start hacking now.
Give me an ETA.
Half an hour. No, 20 minutes. Doctor, I know Amia and the core guys are having a tough time right now. Trust me, I wish I had a couple more pairs of hands too.
The gigantic machine lets out another growl. The previously silent cannon begins to rev up again.
What just happened? The men on the cannon are under attack.
There are hostiles in the there are hostiles in the distance.
It's the Sarkas.
Confessari, to be more exact. No idea what kind of arts those Sarkas are using. All of a sudden, I just couldn't breathe.
Confessorius witchcraft. These Sarkas are their guards. When one has one's life depleted by this witchcraft so quickly, not even medical arts can save them. Have us evacuate the cannon surroundings with our fighters. But then the weapon will go out of control again. Our men's lives are precious. I will destroy the berserk weapon.
Commander, I'm feeling much better.
Commander, are these your arts? No. This light is mobile. Compared to mine, yes, it's much warmer.
Look, someone just appeared behind the Confessorius guards. Who's that? White horns, black robe. Is that a Confessorius? The Confessorius, she's fighting the other Sarkas.
Doctor, that's Shining. Did you ask her to come here?
Cultit has kept in touch with her. She's doing this of her own accord.
I knew how badass Shining could get, but this is my first time seeing her fight for real. How do I put it? I'm starting to understand why she avoids fighting so much.
Madam Confessorius, you came to the fight after all. Once again, you went against our leader's will.
If my actions are under his control, wouldn't that make my departure hardly meaningful?
Do you really despise our leader so much?
No. I've never despised him. I've only ever despised myself.
The guard's mask splits, allowing his final expression before he succumbs to be reflected in the sheath of the Confessorius' sword. Shining gazes at her opponent. Her eyes are both calm and sorrowful. Once again, the final flicker of a living flame has been burned onto her blade forever. The mist of blood is rapidly evaporating under the power of the witchcraft. Countless beams of black energy are shot through the fissures torn open by the witchery. The tides of blood that shroud the command tower have receded a little.
Your swordsmanship, not bad.
Your Highness, we must finish this quickly.
Don't disturb me.
The blood's roar forces Manfred to take a few steps back. Ascalon's arm blade follows him closely. He knows she won't let him get away easily. A red bolt of lightning flashes across the clouds above the command tower.
The Tikaswurzen.
Of course you'd know, just as I know your arm blade.
A signal. You're contacting him. Amia, we don't have much time. Right, as long as we bring Letu with us.
Watch your defenses. The vampire's power is far greater than this.
What a waste of blood.
The battle before was far from enough to satisfy the vampire. He turns his attention to the Victorian soldiers hiding nearby. What? You can't!
It'll be fine, Letu. Soon enough, I shan't even need to keep you alive.
Lieutenant Colonel! Lieutenant Colonel! The soldiers can no longer speak. They fumble their way to the vampire as blood sprays out of their spines, one stream after another, heeding his orders in their arms and legs, marching forward rapidly. They have received the Sanguinarch's blessing.
Do it, to your heart's content. Blood doesn't rise simply because of death. It will only flow faster, thanks to your futile actions.
His soldiers no longer follow his command. He watches them advance and advance until they reach the edge of the rooftop. The Sarkas's fight will soon destroy this place. Their eyes do not even see these normal soldiers who are in flux between life and death. Most of the soldiers are Victorian. They are of entirely different upbringings than him. They remain oblivious to his objective and the deal he made with the Sarkas to this very moment. They simply follow him here, to the edge. He knows he shouldn't have moved. The vampire and Manfred would have been in no hurry to kill him as long as he hid in the far back. But he still wanted to catch those soldiers about to fall to the depths below. Black energy beams. Huh.
Lieutenant Colonel Letu, I can feel pain in your eyes. You think of yourself a Gaulish man. You revere a massive phantom of the past. You want to take hold of it and bring it back. But do you really believe the Sarkas' word? Do you really believe that your dream to rebuild Gaul is possible? You are afraid, sir. You pretend you still have control because you don't want to face the coward in you who wants to flee the war. You force yourself to believe that all the sacrifices you're making are for Gaul. But you can't forget the eyes of those men you've deceived, who you called to their deaths.
You are the young Lord of Fiends they spoke of.
I am.
And I'm your enemy.
Yes.
But you held me back. You don't want to see me die here. They call you the Lord of Fiends, the King of Sarkas. But all I see is a kind, gentle girl. An intense pain suddenly seizes her. This isn't the doing of the Liberi before her, nor is the originium arts of the vampire or Manfred. After all, this isn't an attack.
Amia. Oh, Amia.
A voice calls out to her, a voice as soft as a snow-white feather quilt that has been set out to dry in the sun. Amia lifts her head. The sky above her comes smashing down. The thick dark clouds surge towards her, engulfing her from top to bottom. Like a tight, suffocating embrace. Doctor, Commander, we've taken back control of the cannon.
10 minutes. Give me just 10 more minutes, and I'll take care of them all. Doctor, for the first time these past few days, I think we just might be able to win this.
Miss Closure.
What's up?
I really wish you hadn't said that.
Yes, Closure. Shut the hell up. Don't jinx shit. You're thinking I must have jinxed it. Holy shit, Doctor. What the hell? My surveillance drone's alarms are all started blaring at once. Come on, say something. Going all quiet like that is really freaking me out. Wait, that's...
Monster? Calcit. Calcit is back.
She isn't buying us time. Doctor, you aren't trying to tell me the Nachtseer came back early, are you?
Their advance must have been silent, otherwise someone was sure to have noticed that they had broken through the walls and crossed half the city. These footsteps are nothing but a signal that penetrates the hearts of all those on the battlefield through the trembling ground. Every street their eyes can reach is filled with Sarka's warriors. The shadows cast by the dark clouds above cannot engulf them. After all, they are the dark shadows themselves. They are the ones who engulf the land. But yeah, I will also add here, screw this stage on adverse difficulty. No new enemies to add here, by the way. Normal enemies, but 11:15, which means we are stopping by our little booklet here and are gonna acquire ourselves a little Dagda. So, let's do this.
シージと我が盟友たちを代表して貴殿にご挨拶申し上げる。衣装が騎士らしくないだとは。見た目で判断するんじゃねえぞ。
Nice. All right. And what do we get? So, we got a newspaper, all right. Leighton Montague. A newspaper clipping filled with jubilation. That day, all of Victoria's papers sang praises of Frederick III and his feat of conquering Gaul. Leighton Montague was the son of Sir Angus Montague. He was named a Knight of the Tower at the age of 27. He retired from the Knights of the Tower after injuring his hand, protecting the king from an assassination attempt by Gaulish remnants, on the way back to Londinium after a parade to honor the troops returning from the Battle of the Four Emperors. He was conferred to the title of Count of Manchester at the age of 55. Alright then. But we continue on to stage 11-16, which carries our after story. But first, title. Glory's Hunting Grounds. Step by step, they stride into the hunting grounds laid for them beforehand, heading to meet a cheated death. We do have two new enemies here, technically. We have the elite version of the Rot Chasers, called the Rampaging Rot Chaser. Originium Art's creation of the Nachtzer King. They do not understand the concept of healing. Even if they are stopped, they exist only to create death. Thoughts are incompatible with death, and they never stop. And the elite version of the Wither Maw, the Sarkas Wither Maw, rather. Elite member of the Nachtzer army, devours any obstacle in its way, including the living. Anything and everything is food to it. Only death can make it surrender what it devoured. Still hate those things. But anyway, we continue on with the after part. These statues, they're the kings of Victoria. Phantoms roam here. Not the spirits of the dead, but a shadow of history and memory. Alexandrina. Their voices have become clear. They are familiar and warm, as though they came from a forgotten corner of her memory. Just like how her name was called with scolding and love when she lingered too long in the garden. Alexandrina. Just like how her name was called with anxiety and urging when she sneaked out of the palace to see what was outside with curious eyes. Alexandrina. Just like how her name was called with pride and approval when she swung her little wooden sword, dreaming about becoming a warrior without equal. Alexandrina. But who is calling her like this?
The statues of the Aslan and Draco kings are displayed here. Here is your grandfather, Frederick III, conqueror of Gaul. By his side is his mother, Elizabeth the Glorious.
All in the procession begin treading lightly. She's searching. She knows it is fruitless, but her eyes cannot help her search. She stops before one of the statues. It was never finished, leaving behind only a rough silhouette. Chisel marks can be clearly seen, and an elaborate robe has yet to be liberated from the stone. Where the face should be, there is only a blur of rock with the slight hint of eyes. The crown of the head hints at the statue's position.
By tradition, Originium arts is not used in the creation of these statues. They are the result of years of hard work by royal sculptors. His Majesty's passing was sudden. I know. His Majesty's burden was heavy, politically and tangibly. The Empire was saddled with war debts, and the declining Draco hardly welcomed continued Aslan rule with open arms. No matter how others might assess His Majesty, Father and I did not feel that he was inferior in any way to the kings who lie here. Perhaps Ellerdale. I don't remember. Maybe that's how he looked in my memories.
Alexandrina. Was it him calling? Or all of them? The statues do not look the same. Some of them look solemn, others look kind. She finds no image of them in her memory, but feels some kind of connection with them deep down. The only ones who may style themselves Victoria are the monarchs of Victoria, and the heir to the throne. Therefore, she is Victoria, just like them. She looks away. Compared to vast and glorious Victoria, she is more familiar with the tiny taverns of Norport Borough, the scalding bitterness of cheap ale, and licking a sour lollipop after a fight. She turns away. In that moment, she spots a shadow behind the statues.
To arms!
They all grab their weapons. Looks like we found the ones who left the traces. Sarka's bodies. Hundreds, if not more. Most have decomposed into skeletons, but their clothes tell us they were Sarka's royal court elites and Confessarius guards. Frankly, the word elite is an understatement. A fight with any of them would be a desperate struggle.
Who were they fighting?
She feels Ellerdale's breath grow heavy. Bronze continues to glitter in the shadows of the corpses. Even history could not rob them of their color. She keeps moving forward. The kings of the Empire never back down. One after another. Swords, fire, corrosive arts. An entire suit of armor is covered in dried blood. Arts imbued pila, over 5 meters in length, impaled their torsos. They kept formation. They fought on. Nothing could defeat them. Not the royal court, not the confessari. Not even death. Suddenly, she understands. She understands why the sound of steam has not been heard in Londinium for the past 4 years.
Steam Knights.
Ellerdale stumbles. Siege extends an arm to hold her friend.
Are you alright? I'm fine. It's just the air. I think back to the steam armor of Cumberland Manor. They were always defending, no matter the cost. They were steam knights. They carried the glorious banner of Victoria. No. No.
The noises screech, roar. Is it the sound of steam gushing when the knights charge? What is this emotion, so potent that it threatens to break through everything? She closes her eyes. The emotions confuse her, but the conclusion is clear.
They were betrayed. What? It's clear from the layout of the bodies that the Steam Knights were the attackers and the Sarkas were the defenders. Ridiculous, isn't it? This isn't a story of how the Steam Knights defended the symbol of Victoria to their last breaths in the face of an overwhelming Sarkas tide. It was a trap. The Knights stumbled into an ambush that the Sarkas prepared for them. An ambush that the Sarkas set in the Mausoleum of Kings. Sacrilege! How did the Sarkas get in here? The key to the Mausoleum of Kings is only... No. We handed it over to them. The traitor Duke of Cavendish? Or the clown Duke of Stafford? No. No Steam Knight has been seen for 4 years. They were all here. 1 or 2 dukes blinded by ambition could not recall all the Steam Knights to Londinium. They were betrayed. By all of Victoria.
The burning palace, the golden mane. She could not shake the images ever since she set foot within. She hears the angry roaring of a man, plots being whispered into the shadows. She hears laments and curses, frenzied cries, fateful announcements, roaring, scolding, sobbing, sneering. She hears drip, the sound of tears falling.
Siege? These Steam Knights...
Dagda tries her best to suppress her sobbing. The girl who calls herself a knight has never cried, no matter how desperate the situation is. But now tears are flowing down her face.
I don't understand. I don't understand why.
Siege walks up to her and puts her arms around her trembling shoulders.
I'm sorry, Dagda. I was wrong. Victoria is more than just Parliament and the nobility. It's you and me as well. There are still people willing to cry for them. We don't have too much time. But if I'm still king to you, then let me give you an order, just this once. Dagda, Knight of the Tower, salute this man, who held their glorious banner high even after they were betrayed. Salute them as a knight would, on our behalf. "30, 31, 32. So many suits of armor. They all died here."
Her gaze sweeps over each and every suit of unmoving armor. She salutes them, one by one. Even though those within died years ago, even though she's holding a strange metal claw rather than a ceremonial sword, she performs the proper rites in accordance with tradition. "You're a knight too."
I was. I used to be a Knight of Victoria, just like them. A Knight of the Tower.
Many see it as no more than a noble title.
Yes, we've had no one left to defend ever since His Majesty left us. Silly, isn't it? A bunch of pompous knights guarding an empty palace. All of us, as we stooped upon the tower, knew that the palace behind us was empty. We would only see lights coming from the city in front of us.
I heard you're the heir to somebody important. But it sounds like being a Knight of the Tower isn't a particularly attractive job.
My mother was the Countess of Manchester, but all my family has left is a lonely manor in a border city.
Your mother loved you. She left you with a backup plan. She thought that you would be safe with the Knights of the Tower without a king to protect.
My master told me that a knight would return, that a king would return, and the Knights of the Tower would wipe away their shame. Until Asarka's army smashed open the doors of the tower with their weapons.
The Sarkas didn't do anything to the palace, at least not openly. They didn't want to give anyone excuses. But they couldn't tolerate the existence of the Knights of the Tower.
We tried. The bulk of the Knights of the Tower went with His Majesty. All that was left was a few master knights and a bunch of self-exiled pariahs. But we tried. We brought shame upon ourselves once. We couldn't do it again.
You weren't born when the old Lion King was hanged. Don't put this burden on yourself.
But I swore an oath. I was one of them, even without the king's blessing. They tricked me and decided I was to live before they made their final charge. Master Finn was seriously injured when he sent me out of the tower. I could see blood seeping from under his armor. I've never seen such an expression on his face. He said it was liberation. He said it was an end to regret and guilt, and an end to long years of ignoble existence. He never asked what I wanted. I wanted to die with them.
Life can't be so easily thrown away. Dying is simple. All it takes is one bolt, one thrust of a blade, one infected wound, one tiny little piece of active originium. Living is hard. Living is a constant struggle against the feeling that dying is a way out. You've walked a long road and made good friends. You didn't let your elders down. You did well. The veteran mercenary pats Dagna's shoulders. It's the touch of a stranger, but it reminds her of the warmth of her long-dead comrades. How their palms gently touched her head and shoulders like this, time and again. She never had the chance to mourn them, all those years away from Londinium. The war is not over. It is not yet time to reminisce. But as she gazes upon the broken armor of the Seam Knights, all the memories of the last battle of the Knights of the Tower gush to the surface. She does not understand. Why is the end always like this, when there are so many people who love this land? Why must heroes fade away quietly in the dark? Why are they never triumphant? She can't take it anymore. Cry if you need to. The others can't see with me standing here. And as she sobs away, being shielded by Toller, the suits of armor remain silent around them.
You look nervous, Allerdale. Do I? I wonder, how do you feel about the Steam Knights? They couldn't stop what happened 26 years ago. I don't know. and I don't really care. But someone by the name of Gawain told me that there were no Steam Knights in Londinium at the time. Parliament sent them away. But they did nothing when they returned. What do you think then, Allerdale? I can tell you really revere the Steam Knights. Revere? I don't know if I can say that. I'm just thinking Sir Charles Lynch was the last Steam Knight to be knighted during His Majesty's reign. There were no new Steam Knights in the 2 decades following. Was it a warning, or the price of a struggle that no one knows about? Did the dukes have their blades pointed at each other's throats? Perhaps the betrayal had already started by then. I can't imagine what kind of slow death it must have been. Victoria killed itself.
The voices mutter in protest. Siege pretends not to hear, and repeats calmly, but strongly.
Victoria killed itself with its own greed, ambition, and desire. Will you wipe the slate clean, Your Royal Highness Alexandrina?
The voices fall silent. They are waiting for an answer too.
I'll do what I must.
Alright then, and that was our after story for 1116. Now, this might be a grey stage, but it doesn't say tutorial. It says operation. Which means, yes, this is a sorta scripted operation that we are going to be going through, which also means that while I might have not said at the beginning of the video, this will be included in the narration itself today. However, this is a stage that I will have to play manually during it. So while the stage is going to be going, I will be muted. I will just let the stage play. Or rather, I will play the stage, but that will be after we finish the first cutscene before the stage, because this does carry a story with a before and after scene. So then, let us begin with 1117, titled Answer Me. Thunderclaps writhe to bursting in the dark clouds amidst, and fall on anyone unwilling to lament. Bloody hell, these new lads are tough. We'll charge together. Ready, set. Grab me. No, stay back. Get away from the dead. What's going on? A strange aura permeates the battlefield around the fallen soldiers. Something seeps out from their skin, their eyes, their ears, their noses. It is not blood. It is nothing tangible. Perhaps it is fear. The fear of what comes after death. An unsurmountable fear that is rapidly draining their life force. Get back. I can breathe again. Thanks. You're from Rhode Island. A doctor? Closure called you a doctor, right?
Everyone, get behind me.
This is witchcraft? The smell reminds me of the Wendigo altar.
All ancient Sarkas witchcraft comes from the same place. Death. Wendigo, Nachtseer, vampire, gargoyle, lich, even the banshees. Death is the end for most living things, but a source of power for many Sarkas.
Your sword stopped the corruption from spreading?
Life and death have always been two sides of the same coin. But there's only so much time I can buy. We can't stop the armies of the Nachtseer, even if it's only his vanguard here. The ancient Sarkas slithers on the battlefield, driving death and decay before him. I've only heard legends. We must hurry.
I know. Kalsid gave the signal to retreat. Recall the drone's closure.
Guess there's no other way. Transmitted data 70%. It'll have to do.
Feist, go find Clovicia. Alright, Doctor. Everyone, follow me. Rhode Island, cover the corpse's retreat. Yes, Doctor. And Amia's group. Inform Amia, Ascalon, and Logos. No response. Your call goes unanswered. Something is not right. Amia is not in the habit of ignoring you, even in the middle of a fierce fight. Even in the middle of fierce fighting. PRTS does not show the status of operators, but you realize that she is in great danger. Amia?
The Nachtzer arrived early. Time to move. Dr. Kaltsev was quick enough. Delaying the Lich is all she can do. The Nachtzer army is far more organized than any other Sarkas faction. They will move quickly. Amia?
Retreat? No. They cannot. The vampire's blood shackles can be cut. The Nachtzer's deadly corruption can be resisted. But there is no way to avert the Dark Cloud's gaze as long as they remain on this land. There is no place untouched by the anguish and wrath of the Sarkas. Countless voices rush into her head. She hears children who lost their parents to war sobbing as they walk amongst the ruins. She hears the dull clank of a young soldier's sword as it meets the head of an enemy for the first time. She hears a banshee facing a deformed city, chanting incantations that he has yet learned in the silver moonlight. She hears a vampire chuckle alone in a canyon, turning the enemies charging towards the Sarkas settlements into a sea of blood. She hears the dead souls in the sky, screaming towards the earth. Why did we have to die? Because we were Sarkas? Black lines surge uncontrollably from her eyes, ears, and mouth, scratching and entwining. Stretching. For an instant, all the Sarkas feel their hearts grasped by the black strings. Don't be affected, Amia.
What happened, Doctor? I thought I heard a sound.
Now, I tried to look this up, but apparently this is no real language because I was not getting literally any results whatsoever, so I'm just gonna ad-lib, I guess, whatever the pronunciation of this could be, so
Hadama Mala Bafala. The earth is filled with darkness. Darkness gives birth to evil. Evil brings pain. Hadama Mala Bafala.
What's Closure saying? I don't understand.
I don't know. I feel dizzy. What's happening in my head?
Is this Sarkas witchcraft, Doctor? But I don't feel anything. Hey, look at the enemy. Darkness, pain, share. I've heard these words before. I've heard a similar language before. It's kind of a hypnotic suggestion. Unorthodox arts.
Doctor, retreat with the core and the other operators immediately.
But Amia...
Shining, you're affected too. A rampant power is eating away at the souls of all Sarkas. Not even a Confessarius can repel it, even if I can resist it for a while.
Rampant power? Could it be...
Only the sovereign of the Sarkas can use the hope of her men as consolation and punish traitors with their deepest fears. Only the king of Sarkas. I know what you're thinking, Doctor. You're wondering which king is attacking all of the Sarkas indiscriminately.
Amiya is in danger.
That's what I'm most worried about. The power of the king of Sarkas. How can an untrained vessel contain millennia of our racial memories? I see. I see. You cannot contain it. The rings you wear on your hand came from Teresa. You thought it would trap both the blessing and the curse, but you forgot that what was given can be taken back. You must have noticed, Ascalon. His Highness is affecting Amiya. We can't afford any delay. The Nachtzer and Thereses may appear at any moment. We must take Amiya away, by force if necessary. Amiya.
The rings do not crack or change color. They are trembling because she is.
Cortus, you are not worthy of the crown that Theresa bestowed upon you. Not because you are not Sarkas, not because you have never tried to understand the nature of the Sarkas. Like Theresa, you have been blinded by the creature that calls itself Concert. You thought the Sarkas are race linked by blood like felines. You thought our wrath resistance is to injustice. You thought our struggle a conflict between nations. But are they truly so? Look my vengeance in the eye, King of Sarkas. Listen to the lamentations in the clouds above your head. They will tell you that the Sarkas were never the same people as these shameful invaders. The elders and the ancients were never the same people. Kazdal was never a city, nor a nation. When the Sarkas were known as Tikas, when they still had a home, Kazdal meant the entire world that we saw before our eyes. Kazdal was Terra.
Infinite sorrow engulfs her, binding her, suffocating her. Dark clouds fill her vision, no matter where she turns. How can she escape? What would it take? She can only listen. A Sarka scales the city walls. Behind him, a city of grey iron. Above his head, a black banner. Wounded warriors line up before him. Young Sarkas, about his age but untrained, guard the city walls with rusty swords in their hands. Countless compatriots stand behind him, some old, some young, many with nothing more than bows and arrows for hunting. The enemy has fled the barrens and come before their city. They hear the stabs of the Spirecasters cut through the air. They hear the Gaulish gunners directing their Originium guns. They hear the heavy footsteps of steam armor and the gushing of steam as they charge. They hear the wind blowing the commander's robes, and the cold and dull sound it makes when it hits armor. Who is the feline? Steam Knights stand before her. Is she a Victorian general? But the spire casters and Gaulish gunners obey her call. They hear her pass judgment upon the Sarkas.
I know all that Sarkas are planning. Hatred is a sickness that cannot be cured. Your vengeance will bring wounds to the land that can never be healed. Ambition must be cooled while in their bud, for the peace of the world for the next 200 years.
Fire rushes towards Kazdal from all directions. Another Kazdal is reduced to ruin. Countless Sarkas die in the conflagration, but a worse fate awaits those who survive it. Why did I have to die? Because our origin was different. Must we be eradicated simply because the land could not stand our hatred anymore? 6 heroes rise from the ruins. They charge the great army before them, carrying the burning banner of Kazdal. No Sarkas dies willingly. The screams of the tens of thousands of Sarkas who fell become the war drums for the heroes as they charge the enemy. Answer me, enemy! Who are you to decide that Kazdal must be destroyed? Who are you to judge the Sarkas? Why do you not speak? Why do you not answer? Kaltset! 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 The walls of Kazdal are falling. So are the dead Sarkas, with ash and rubble. She is falling.
Alright, it's beginning to clear. I can see again. Wait, on the tower!
Amiya! Closure, your drone! The assassin delays the vampire. The caster slows the falling. You fly across the battlefield on the zipline pulled along by the drone. You grab Amiya's hand and pull her into your arms just before she hits the ground.
Katsit. Doctor. Doctor, why is Amiya saying Katsit's name?
You see tears of sorrow in the corners of Amiya's eyes, and fury in her furrowed brow. What did she see? What did she hear?
Crap, Doctor, something's coming up fast. What the heck? It's so close. Where is it? No. It was there all along.
A silhouette. A Sarka's watching you silently. He lacks the thick malice of the vampire, the proud contempt of the confessarius, or the fearsome aura of the Nachtzerer. He even lacks the Wendigo's imposing stature. Just one Sarkas, no army, no servants. He rose from his throne, laid down the authority that he never truly cared for, and walked here. With a cold gaze, not seen for 2 centuries. His sword is right before your eyes. You see it before you see his face clearly. Amiya will die, so will you, if you do not let her go. He came here with one goal, to kill the King of Sarkas in your arms. A familiar silhouette cuts in front of you and Amiya. Red, warm liquid splashes onto your face, and your hands, which are still holding Amiya. Katsit, cry out without even thinking. She's dying. She may die this instant. You have never felt this possibility so clearly before.
Dr. Dekamiya, go. Calcit!
All the effort could only deflect the unremarkable sword by inches. Closure pulls on you desperately while you continue to hold Amiya in your arms. The drone rapidly pulls you back, while a bloodied Calcit remains in front of you.
Theresis.
Monster weakly struggling. You've decided to stand against the Sarkas again. I saw you reborn by Theresa's side 200 years ago. The culprit responsible for Kazdan's destruction. The immortal who tamed history. You did many things for her. Told stories of fantastic realms that we could never see. It is a shame.
You're just accelerating destruction. Dr. Calcit, you can't...
I know. Better for Sarkas to head towards destruction one step faster than to be robbed of the right to exist by your cruel machinations.
No.
You don't have the strength to talk. It was impressive that you intercepted the Lich's messenger. Not even the military commission has found any trace. But it's clear that it was not an amicable conversation. As I warned you once, I'll kill you again, Calcit.
Alrighty then. But before we head into the stage, as always,
there is a boss. Theresis. Regent Theresis of Kazdal has gathered the Sarkas army at Londinium and occupied the Shard. If total war is to be avoided, he must be stopped from declaring war on the Dukes. And like I said, this is a predetermined battle, more so with the squad than anything else. So let's head in, enjoy, and I will shut up.
Monster, 私に続け。行くよ。スチュワード君、次はどうすればいいの？私たちにお任せください。怖くはないわ。みんな、私に続け。他の人はついてこれる。みんな、私に続け。やっちゃおっか。わかった。ここ遅すぎる。倒れろ。状況は目覚めよ。問題のそういう香りは好き。オラオラ。倒れろ。了解。貫く。転覆開始。状況は役目を果たせ。私もこんなの嫌だよ。 問題ないわ。ここ。私の意向にひれ伏しなさい。
戦いで救うことができるのなら。
影もこんなの
悲しい。
みんなどいて。
状況役目を果たし。心配しないで。こんなの悲しいです。貫く。心配しないで。あなたは私がお守り。みんな私に続け。
ドクターの言う通りに見えたよ。
あなたは私がお守りします。貫く。心配しないで。
空があなたを。これならどうかな。
喜んで。
他の人はついてこれる。ドクター、僕と遊ぼう。
苦しみを忘れたことはありません。
怖くはないわ。
こんなの悲しいです。
私こんなの嫌だよ。勝つためなら何でもやるけど。
Alright then, and we shall finish off today's narration with the after story.
Doctor, we have to take Amiya and go. Shining can hold 3 soft for long. The drone. Grab the zipline, Doctor. We'll go as fast as we can. I'll punch them if worst comes to worst. I don't like fighting, if I can't help it. But Theresa pulled me out of that attic. Ami and Halsey taught me responsibility. I'm a vampire too. If it's for you, why?
Closure, over here.
Huh?
Time to move, Doctor. The zipline's ready. Give me your hand. A burst of light explodes as the sword pierces the ground. Time stops in an instant. Confessarius witchcraft. General. Dame calls it. She approaches the end of this cycle. Rhode Island's Cautus was rescued. The sanguine arc of vampires is pursuing the Banshee at Ascalon. What of Theresa? I just received Her Highness's signal, General. It's ready. Good. The region looks up at the overcast sky and the walls in the distance. The true battlefield of the Sarkas lies beyond the walls. It's time to begin.
Meanwhile, underground. Are you ready? There's nothing to make ready. Right, we're finally here. Vina, I must We must bear witness to all this.
An elaborate black structure lies at the end of the tunnel. Generation after generation, the greatest minds of Victoria came together to build it. All this just to hold a sword. If you are the heroes who can use it to conquer catastrophe, then let humanity use its wisdom to rise a shield against the storm. These structures, the entire building, was made for this. The voices rise up again. The calls are no longer urgent, no longer sharp, no longer attempting to persuade or incite. She feels a tired sense of peace. She has been here before. She has been guided to this place, long before her memories took shape. Just like then, she knows where she must go, what she must take. It is right there, in the middle of the room, unguarded, so unremarkable it might as well have been a tiny decoration in this grand building. King Asika, the size of kings. It lay there and continues to do so over the centuries through countless reforgings. Siege extends a hand towards it. Broken shadows fill the space, rising and ebbing, resonating. Alexandrina, Alexandrina Vina Victoria, they whisper her name. She touches the sword. Shards of days gone by pass through her body. She hears a boom in her mind. Suddenly, she understands. She is the source of all those visions and sounds. They are her doubts, confusion, regrets, recollections. Things she has forgotten and things she intentionally forgot. A great hand raises her. Londinium stands up from beneath her, taking her across the land of Victoria. The land that she and her friends walked. Countless voices superimpose upon one another. Victoria, Victoria. This is Victoria. Her Victoria. Vina, Vina. The voices call out. Siege opens her eyes. There are no illusions now, no tides. She holds in her hand the size of kings, symbol of the Victorian monarchy. There is little to show that it is a sword of legend. It is unremarkable in size and design. It looks like an ordinary sword.
You have the size of kings, Vina. It's lighter than I expected. Let's go. Time to go home.
Siege wants to turn around and feel the sword's warmth with her friends.
Don't.
But she feels a colder blade in her back.
Ellerdale? Please. Don't turn around. Give me the sword. Your Highness Alexandrina, I'm sorry. I have to do this.
Ellerdale's voice is calm, but filled with a terrible, resolute sorrow. Siege recalls the memories that Morgan wrote in jest. Memoirs. A handful of pages, clumsily written, with less than elegant vocabulary. The story starts with a fictional fight. Everyone returns to base after the fight. Ellerdale makes a cream stew for them in the story. She laughs in her heart. Ellerdale made a stew, yes, but what the memories omitted is that it did not exactly taste great. Siege! Don't move. You too. I don't want to hurt you, but I have a debt to pay. Our mission is to help Ellerdale remove the sword from the Mausoleum of Kings. Finish this job and I can retire. It was an offer I couldn't refuse. We just mourn the heroes who fell victim to betrayal together. I thought you would understand. But in the end, you're no different from them. I'm ashamed I thought about trusting you even for a moment. Like I said, living is hard. I'm sorry. I want all of us to keep on living. I'll try to make sure we do just that. We've both been pushed out of death's way by our friends. Unfortunately, our paths happen to diverge this time.
Ellerdale, Your Highness, please hand over the size of kings for your own safety. Is this the only way? I betrayed your trust. There's nothing I can say about that. You can admonish me, reproach me, try to defeat me. You have the right to do so. But I will leave with the sword. This is my destiny in Londinium. You said the size of kings would protect Londinium from the storm. I don't want to drag Londinium into the abyss either. I won't let her fall into Sarka's hands. Into the hands of the dukes, then. Whoever is behind what wants to use the size of kings to intimidate the other dukes and subjugate them. They don't care about protecting Victoria. We may be meek, but we're in the middle of all this. With the people who have been hurt and abused. I know what she's after, but it doesn't concern me. I can only care about what I can actually influence. What about the Self-Salvation Corps? You built it with Clovicia. You protected it with your honor. I have no honor. Then you protected it with your life. What do I tell the Corps fighters if you're really going to leave? Clovicia will handle it. I no longer have the strength to care about what they think of me. You claim you only care about what you can influence. Aren't you underestimating what you already have? What does one dare to have when you know it's only a matter of time before you lose it? What does one dare to reveal when what everyone trusts and respects is just an illusion? What can one hold on to when you realize this is the one and only end of your path? This isn't even the outcome of a choice. I simply ended up here. Fate has pushed me to this place before I even realized it. We could never have walked together. We met when we were little, didn't we? At Cumberland Manor. I thought you had forgotten. I almost had. It was Gawain that day. I was with Gawain that day. The creature that was like the sun told us we would meet again someday. But he could not have guessed that it would end this way. You won't give me the sword, Vina. Then swing it. We must bear witness. Ellerdale, remember my promise? Enough. Say no more. I carry nothing on my shoulders. I'll just be your brain thrust. Sorry, I forgot you had Morgan. I'll just be a thug then. We'll bomb the Sarka's camp together. You light the fire, and I'll kick their commander's arse once there's smoke. I'm joking. I know. My path is long determined, Vina. Why do you say that? You're still with us. The Glasgow gang has more stories to write. So, the answer is yes. I'll make sure you come back unharmed after kicking that commander's arse. That's my promise. It's not a joke. Never has been, never will be. We'll all make it out of this in one piece.
A sound breaks the stalemate. Was it an illusion? Siege looks around. The massive statues remain still in the shadows. None of the dead Sarkas come back to life. Again. Nearby, right in front of her, the sound of steam gushing, increasingly rapid, increasingly loud, increasingly clear, until it fills the entire space.
What's that?
Ellerdale's heart skips a beat. She can feel it. The premonition of fate echoes again cruelly. And that is where we're gonna leave off today. Oh boy, usually I keep my thoughts for certain things to the final of a chapter or the finale of a side story, but wow. Wow, stuff happened and stuff got revealed, and oh boy, so 200 years ago, Kal'tsit, or a former version of Kal'tsit, led a collective army of multiple nations against Kazdel and razed it to the ground, only as to be, as Theresis says, reborn next to, or rather by Theresa's side to continue living. So I had my theories for a while about Kal'tsit, about her being not immortal to the point of you cannot kill her, but immortal to the point of being just long-lived, or not being able to die from old age, and that she has some kind of purpose in the world, again connecting back to the, well, mostly to, what was it called again? Oh my god, I'm blacking out on the name. Jesus. A Walk in the Dust. Sorry. But yeah, calling back to A Walk in the Dust, where we pretty much followed through a just small period of time before the main story kicks off, essentially, alongside Kal'tsit, but also through Isin, who has sort of a dream or a vision of a far-off past, where he sees not Kal'tsit, but someone resembling Kal'tsit very closely. But yeah, she has a role in the world to some extent. I do not know what her role is, outside of what I can extrapolate from the lines that were said here. But I'm just gonna, again, no spoilers please. If anything, I'm just gonna presume that the next, either this story at the end or maybe even the next chapter that is out in the Chinese client, and I know how thirsty people are to read ahead before it comes to global. I'm just gonna say that my current theory, based on what was said here, is that after that battle, she did die. The old version of her died, but a new came back, meaning that she definitely has some kind of role to keep being in the world. What the role could be, I'm just gonna think... I just keep thinking of... She needs to keep the world going for some reason. Like most... A very crucial line gets also said during Stultifera, where she kinda... Was it her who says that? I can't remember. It's either her or one of the Aus members who says that. during that story, wherein she's there to look after, oversee the world, keep it going, preserve it, not let it fall to ruin, something along those lines. And she definitely gets very involved in that storyline, mostly because of the Seaborn being such a threat to just life in general. And if they would spread across the land, then whatever mission she has would pretty much fall through completely. So, interesting. So whatever the Sarkas 200 years ago were about to do, she thought it of such a threat to the world, at least her old version, from what our dear Theresa's there is saying, considering she says he killed her once already, he'll do it again. Meaning that what was I about to say? Jesus Christ, so much shit is going through my head right now. But yeah, I mean, the biggest, I guess it's literally in front of your nose, right? The biggest indicator of the fact that it's probably has been multiple cultists so far, at least 3 cultists. It is literally Monster's name. Monster lives somehow in symbiosis with her, but in its name, it has the number 3 in. And I remember myself making jokes in the past about how, haha, is that an Xbox gamer tag or something? The only thing it's missing is an XX and XX at the front at the end. But looking in retrospect, if that is an actual indication of how many have already died and which number cults this already is, then oh boy. I do wonder how she comes and where she comes back then if she actually dies. This is gonna be very interesting to keep reading the rest of this chapter. I do wonder if she actually gets to live in her current form, or will she die? But yeah, personally, I think she is just, like I said, she is immortal to the point of not dying from age, but she is not unkillable, as pretty much demonstrated just right now. And whatever purpose she serves, she's just there to keep the world going? Like a construct, almost? But very interesting. Whatever happened as well with Theresa, looks like it kinda changed her to some degree as well. Her exposure, it's definitely a thing of her exposure to Theresa, Amiya, and the Doctor has definitely influenced Kal'tsit to some degree. But yeah, very interesting. But also, let's be clear here, she did not jump to protect